Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's daily brief. Here we are back in the saddle. I think where we're going, although, oh, there it goes. We should see it live on YouTube. There we are. Oh, what a beautiful website. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Frivolity. No big dumps today to report, thank heavens. Maybe a bit of consolidation. Are we halfway through the down move? That's tough to say. Are we getting there? Actually, I was just pointing on the screen before we hit the record button that we noticed that OKCoin, we've actually had and I don't know whether this orange AB equals CD has been hit yet, but I didn't realize OKCoin went quite deep there yesterday. Traded to a low of 39.64, and that AB equals CD is sitting at about 3,900. So we are slowly working our way through this. My feeling is once we've hit this objective here, 127 extension off of this previous range, I think probably the slide will be done. And if we're really lucky, maybe a nice little bottom comes in, nice little counter trend rally, underside kiss of these levels, reverse, maybe tag of the POC. You can see the profile is extremely thin down here. So it's not like there's a lot of business getting done here. I think this is just a lot of stop runs. We had news yesterday that the backed people are backing away from the market. Actually, it was really amusing, and we've got Mr. Bear here this morning, but he put out a really funny tweet yesterday about that event, and I was tweeting back. We were talking in Star Trek talk, and it was kind of cute because Thomas said he got the reference that I replied back to him, so he understood the reference. So that was good. But anyway, might as well get the word from the horse's mouth. Let's introduce our crew. We've got, of course, as always, driving the bus straight from the mean streets of Vienna, the mayor of Austria. Could you be the mayor of Austria? I don't know. Anyway, driving the bus as always. He's got his shirt on. He's a little under the weather, but he's feeling pretty good, I think. How you doing this morning, Alex?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm showing off my Barry White voice today, I guess.
Where is Thomas? I sure hope Thomas makes it through this bear because that guy was so cool. And you guys in UK, Josh, I see you there. See if you can reach out and get Thomas to come out to that meetup in London that you're having next month because he was such a great member of the community. Definitely. And if anything, I think it's good that we're hearing the cold in Alex's voice because that means hopefully he's coming to the end of his sickness. So, take it easy, bud. Some nice hot lemon, some loving from Joanna, and hopefully we'll get you on the mend real soon. If we zip on over to the other side of the planet from the mean streets of Philly. Mind you, I don't know where he is these days. Half the time he's around the world. But how you doing this morning, Mr. Bear? Thomas, are you there?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for asking. And I hope you get well soon, Alex. I didn't get to say hi to you in the hangout because Brian and I were busy nerding out about our Star Trek references.
And it'd be interesting to just get a feedback from the people in the audience here, whether anybody even got those references. Do you remember those episodes? But all right, so as you can see on my screen, the Bear AB equals CDs are playing themselves out. Even in the lounge this morning where I was kind of like, guys, let's not get too excited. Remember yesterday we talked about how this 4-hour chart probably still needed a bit more work to sort of clean itself up. I don't really have anything other than just a big FU candle and a quick reversal here. Candle body lows. Of course, Brian loves those as trade location, but the size of this tail is pretty concerning. And AB equals CD kind of talk, while the bot itself didn't really set up very well. If I understand correctly, Thomas said he got some wicked ass shorts off through this fractal fail. So rock on, dude. As it stands right now, though, I still think we're just sort of cleaning up after the disaster. I wouldn't mind hearing what Thomas's prognostication is, but I think we're basically on the same page. What I'm worried about here is because we bounced so violently off of these lows, could we actually take another, serious dip against those lows here through the day? You'll notice that the bounce actually took us right into a reload short zone, and here comes a big old M. And you can see through the New York kill zone, they actually fired a nice little inside bar reversal here. This is a 30-minute chart on OKCoin. If we just do a nice, I thought I had this chart up here, but if we just do a nice little fib off of this range, lo and behold, you can see reload zones line up nicely with those candle body low thesis and kind of single ticks kind of price action down here. So be prepared, people. Nobody said that we were done the insanity just yet. I guess it was off of here. And actually, I loaded up this chart this morning, and I go, holy shit, this has got Thomas written all over him. So I don't know. I suppose we'll get a report as to what Thomas is doing. I don't know whether he's hitting Bitcoin itself or playing one of the proxies, but you can see that short setup here this morning through the New York kill zone is actually playing itself out right now. So that's sort of what I'm just seeing, broader picture on Bitcoin. Thought I'd just start off with just a little bit of what the heck does Brian see. Where do you want with regard to Bitcoin? But where do you want to take this train first thing this morning? Do we want to talk stock or do we want to concentrate on crypto? I kind of started backwards. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I guess we can pick up where you left off. Stock market, we can talk about later. But I've been playing this market every which direction possible. And frankly, I'm getting to the point where, I'm not lost by any means, but it's just like I'm long, I'm short, I'm in, I'm out. And it's probably been one of the most intense trading weeks I've had in a long time, maybe a month or so since that stability hit the market. So I've been kind of trading weird hours. I was up last night until, 4 in the morning, and then I got woken up by some alarms, and it's just really violent and volatile trading, and profit objectives are really tough to nail down here. I really think that this market, while it's a range trader's paradise, it's challenging. And I think Brian really hit the nail on the head in terms of what I'm looking for. I think that because we've kind of failed to pop up here, we had every reason to, in that we had this market structure bottom on this hourly on Ethereum, and it was actually, I believe, also on Bitcoin here. Yeah, so if you look at my hourly, not only do you have divergence confirmed, you also have market structure, but this thing just ran into a brick wall here at 78.6, which is about 45.80. And it tried, and it tried, and it tried to break above it, but it just couldn't. And I believe that these are institutional shorts or big players coming into the market shorting again, because from what I'm hearing, nobody's bullish in this space, at least from an investor standpoint and a venture cap standpoint. People are losing their lunch here. So I think there's a lot of people that are locking in hedges or shorts, whatever it may be, probably both. And they're hitting this market hard. And it certainly came in through London kill zone, where it's almost like they propped the market up to get themselves a nice fill short. And you can see, this is just a perfect reload zone short. And now we're kind of bouncing between this 78.6 level. And then this morning in the New York kill zone, they did the same damn thing. They took it down to 78.6 and propped it back up. And I'm wondering if into the kill zone, they're the ones that fired off these shorts. And now it looks like this big market structure top, like Brian said, is coming into the market. So we have to be looking for potential downside at this point. I think the fact that we have failed through here and we didn't get the push that I was expecting through the kill zone overnight hours, and even yesterday's push downward, it's just, there's no doubt about it. This is still a very much bear market. And in order to get a clue as to whether or not this market is going to reverse, I really think it's important for anyone who's trading this to look at the 4-hour chart and wait for this thing to clean itself up. Let me take this off so you can get a good picture. This looks really dangerous to me, right? Super vulnerable. But if you look at this really long divergence, it looks very tempting. But we have to remember this is not confirmed. So as tempting as it may be, it is not a trade to take, and it is certainly not a reason here for a trade. And to me, this just looks like it's got more down written on it after today's lower time frame action. So according to the 4-hour, we're still trying to base. We haven't made new lows just yet. We haven't put in any structure. So I'm almost inclined to believe that not only do I have to take the short just from that lower time frame structure, but I have to be tempering my enthusiasm long, as I've been saying that, until this 4-hour trade comes in. And maybe it takes until next week to come in at this point. You also have to remember that any New York kill zones that are going to come in at the end of the day today, we're going to call those the turkey kill zone. So I'm sorry again, Christian, another animal reference, but animal mortality reference. But I really think that New York's just done with trading after the close today, and they're going to be off on Thanksgiving break tomorrow and Friday. And I think that's what's going to dictate trading going forward today at the close. So probably
ready for the fireworks this weekend, peoples.
Yeah. So really, I think the big boys come back next week and we get a really good directional bias in the market. Obviously, the directional bias now is down. And the question next week will be, do we actually reverse the trend here and try to reverse? And, I was scanning the news last night, the crypto news sites, and a couple of them were publishing articles that, oh, Bitcoin's bouncing. It's a really high likelihood that it's going to get back to its previous fail level at $5,000. And it's like, really, guys, it's up, what, $400, $500, and they're all jumping on board bullish. So that, I know it's not a reason for a trade. I certainly didn't use it as one, but it just made me think, oh, shit, maybe my longs are screwed. So, there's too much uncertainty right now in the market. And as far as the technicals are concerned, I think we've given you those lower time frames, and we're searching for bottoms on the 4-hour and daily. And Brian showed you where we would potentially be looking for our targets. The problem is if this tail gets breached, which it almost looks like it probably still should, just because of the way that I look at the market, doesn't mean it's right, but I think that there's very big high potential for this thing to make new lows. And I don't really have a good target on the downside on this chart right now. And it's really anyone's guess as to where this market's going to bottom, but it just looks like poop right now. So that's your Bitcoin commentary. And then I think this actually translates quite similarly to Ethereum. Ethereum also, I was talking about this this hourly time frame that had this divergence working. This also came into a reload zone, but the one encouraging thing about Ethereum is that it's trying not to make new lows, but I think the problem in this sector is still very much that Bitcoin is the leader here. It's the train conductor, and whichever way the train conductor says to go, the rest of the cars have to follow. And I think Ethereum is very much attached to the train in this scenario. So
we should also just, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's not a bad idea just to review the fact that Ethereum still versus Bitcoin is still working this bearish pattern. And of course, Ethereum's got all the issues around tax loss selling, year-end, ICOs, having to give all the money back to the people. So I'm thinking that Ethereum might still see some real nasty bearish fireworks here. Be careful, people.
Yeah, look at where Brian's his bot target is, way down there.
0.02. So we're at 0.03 now. So we only got another 50% to go. Actually, no, not. But 33%. Oh, man.
Yeah.
So, what does that mean? To me, it seems logical. Actually, if you look at Thomas's screen and look at his profile, if he drew like an arc, a parabola off of that profile, I think it probably suggests that, maybe $100 or something. Big, fat, round number, psychological level. I could probably use some work, but didn't mean to interject there, but I just wanted to point out that this bearish bot that we actually started talking about in the summer is still working away. It's quite remarkable, really.
Yeah.
So again, I know a lot of people, I think our message yesterday, 4-hour charts still cleaning itself up. Don't think there's a big hurry. And heading into the end of the year, I don't hear anybody rah, go crypto, go. If anything, all I hear is negative. So to me, this seems like a classic experience of we don't necessarily need to stick our neck in the noose and be the one to call the bottom. If anything, probably best let's just let the bottom come in, and then we can start participating. All right, and Joshua mentioned here Shooting Star off of that OKCoin chart. I see that what you're talking about there, Joshua. I don't know whether that's off the same time frame, but if anything, I do actually like the idea of the market dumping into this bearish bot objective and setting up that bullish divergence here. So that actually does seem very realistic to me at this point. So. Okay, what do you got there? Bitcoin mining firm Gigawatt declares bankruptcy, owing millions. I suppose we're going to have lots of this kind of talk now.
Yeah, this is just pretty much what the headline states. This US-based mining firm by the name of Gigawatt declared bankruptcy, and they owe millions of bucks still to their creditors. They were registered in the Eastern District of Washington. So a lot of these miners are actually popping up in Washington State, mainly because they're giving cheap electricity. They're trying to encourage money flows into their local municipalities. And this one, unfortunately, went under. I think that they started up probably, halfway through the bull run in May. So probably a little bit earlier before the thing really took off, right? So I don't actually, I can't claim to understand why they went bankrupt. There's probably a ton of different reasons, but as far as the cost of production and cost of mining, clearly this specific company breached that area and failed hard. I don't know if this has anything to do with the SEC litigation and pursuant of ICOs that were registered in the US, but it says they raised 22 million worth of crypto in May. So group of plaintiffs sued them for allegedly conducting an unregistered securities offering. There we go. There's the answer. Right at the end of the article. I read every freaking paragraph except the last one. So there you go. That's the reason. And this one's toast. So this is kind of the stuff you're going to be expecting to see in the space. More and more bankruptcies, more and more funds. If you didn't have your shit together, you didn't know what you were doing, you're just falling into the same human behavior trap. And unfortunately, it's so cyclical. So as far as, this stuff is concerned, it is what it is. Don't let it break your heart. Don't let it diminish what you think of the whole space. These are just companies and individuals and investors who just didn't have their shit together and unfortunately didn't do what was necessary to ensure their own success. And I'm sure they're very smart people, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles, unfortunately. That's a really terrible way of saying it, but I do feel bad for these guys. So there is one other article that I wanted to share that's very similar to that, and now it has disappeared from me. It's basically about Bitmain. So here it is. So Bitmain announced today that they're actually going to be starting up a mining location in Washington, despite this crash. It'd be nice if they bailed out Gigawatt, but obviously they had too many issues. But this is, this is, yeah. So it's a mining area. They're going to be mining there. I don't know why they call it a data center, but it's 20 million.
They're picking up that other company's hardware at like pennies on the dollar.
It would make sense. If I was the company owner, I'd certainly go over and offer them something for it. But
hey, Shane, you should keep a close eye on the for sale stuff on Craigslist. See if people are dumping mining rigs at massive discounts locally here in Vancouver.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I had an article about the hash rate, the difficulty of mining Bitcoin right now is actually much lower than what it was previously, and that's attributed to the fact that a lot of these miners pointed their rigs and their systems at Bitcoin Cash. So I would expect that anyone that was mining throughout this whole civil war bullshit, that they were a little more profitable than they used to be prior to this conundrum going on. So I think that that'll probably diminish. We're probably a little too late to take advantage of that, but sort of an afterthought, if you will, as to, you know, maybe these companies are generating a little bit more profit and, you know, extend any losses into next year. But either way, it is interesting to see how this is affecting the ecosystem. And we're seeing how miners are collapsing, or in this case, the mining giant from China, Bitmain, is swallowing up and trying to become a monster here in the United States. And I don't think this is their first entrance into the US. I think they have another one as well. And this is Washington State too, right? So this is Washington Chelan County Public Utility District. So I don't know why they have a picture of Washington, D.C. here. Clearly the writer didn't understand that Washington State is different than Washington, D.C. But whatever, that's not the point of this.
That's the Capitol building in Spokane.
Is it? It must be.
What the fuck is Spokane?
So I want to continue with some news here, and this is Binance. So we're seeing a lot of these exchanges trying to get footholds in the US. You're seeing mining giants like Bitmain trying to come into the US. Now you're seeing Binance doing the same thing. And they're all strategically maneuvering themselves to take advantage of not only these low prices, but also of purchasing some of these startups that have good ideas, but might actually be sort of vulnerable right now. I mean, if you're a startup or if you're a company that's been involved in this space and you entered within the last, call it, year, you're at a loss right now. You're operating, you know, just from the price of Bitcoin from where it was a year today versus where it is now, you've lost some money. So hopefully they've taken some profits, but essentially what's going on, and the point of all this is that these exchanges and these companies, they essentially smell blood. So these places are going to be a little bit more willing to strike deals, to go out and seek funding and seek help from these larger behemoth companies. And that's what Binance did. They invested in a company called Koi Trading, which is based in San Francisco. They're according to this article, a popular over-the-counter trading desk operation. And they've been providing private liquidity to anyone who wants to buy cryptocurrency without moving the actual price itself on the exchanges. And more so, I think the most important thing here is that this specific company has an AML program and banking relationships in the United States. So this was most certainly a very strategic acquisition by Binance. Just like some of these other exchanges have tried to make partnerships as well into the banking sector. So Binance will not be left behind in that sector when it comes to banking and entering the US markets. So that's something to keep in mind.
In a weird sort of way, I'm kind of doing that myself with picking up Edie's stock, basically where he owns it. And this blockchain chain 2 corp, same sort of thing. I like that idea. I think actually that makes a lot of sense. If you can put yourself into a position to go shopping here over this sort of bloodshed period here, I think you're going to get some fantastic deals down the road. And of course, right, the old adage, this is the only business when stuff goes on sale, nobody wants to buy. So, you know, I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm investing in some of these companies myself at the bottom. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense that these bigger exchanges would basically go on a shopping spree down here. All right, what's next? Oh, Bakkt is backing away from the market.
Yeah, you know, I know we had the news yesterday about them postponing their launch, and that's sort of what my tweet had to do with, the fact that, you know, clearly I think they were the ones propping the market up above $6,000, and whatever happened last week, they're like, oh shit, we got to put this all on hold, and they pulled their bids. Talked about that a little bit yesterday, but this article,
I like the idea, though. I gotta admit, I think Alex said this, that these companies have to have an inventory, and if people want to short Bitcoins, they have to have an inventory that people can short against them too. So I do like the idea of the somebody, or institutions did take positions, but to give them the flexibility to both sell to their customer base and to have product that if their customer base wanted to borrow to short into the market, they could do that. I thought that was a really interesting comment Alex made yesterday. But long and short of it here, these guys are just backing away from the market right now, eh?
Yeah, and this has been a concern of mine since I first found out about this. This guy writes about why Bakkt is such a big deal, and he goes on and on about mainstream adoption and physical Bitcoin futures are, unique, and this is very good, and that they have a custodial service. But here's the thing that I'm worried about, and this guy actually highlights it and says that it's a good thing, but I'm actually going to disagree with him, and he clearly wrote this article before they moved their deadline to launch. But he says that Bakkt is ready to tackle the issue of off-blockchain solution, meaning that people have issues with the amount of transactions that you can actually use with Bitcoin, where it's 7 per second versus the credit cards, which are hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands. But whatever, the point here is that he thinks that this is a good thing because we won't actually need to report some of these transactions to the blockchain unless they're actually being settled. And then he goes on to kind of discuss what my concern is, in that this will just become what the stock market really is when it comes to commodities like gold and silver, even stock issuance, which is sometimes, because of outdated computer models and because of, call it, old communication between brokerages, sometimes too much stock is given out than what actually exists. And that is very dangerous. Now, I actually think that this guy's talking about this same thing happening here for Bitcoin, where they're going to be providing these Bitcoins and giving them paper, almost like paper issuance to these customers and saying that they own Bitcoin. But if too many of these, call them people who own these paper Bitcoins, decide to settle and they have to broadcast those transactions to the blockchain, what happens if they issued too much paper and didn't actually have the infrastructure enabled properly to handle something like that? And I think that's a really, really big concern and really big issue here that I haven't really seen anyone address or discuss, and Bakkt certainly hasn't said anything about it. And Caitlin Long, if you haven't heard anything from her, she's a huge, huge proponent about solving that issue. And she's the one who... Sorry?
She's got purple hair, doesn't she?
No, you're thinking of Amber Balde. She's
sorry,
different lady. But Caitlin Long is very brilliant. And so is Amber. They're both very, very smart individuals with great opinions and are highly respected. Amber's gone in front of Congress to on a panel to discuss cryptocurrencies, and Caitlin Long is a Wall Street veteran, very well spoken, has very real concerns about this. And I would encourage you to make your own opinion about this. But my opinion is that if they don't solve this, they're just creating the same exact problem that exists in the gold and silver market, where if somebody actually decided to take delivery of all of the physical gold or silver that's supposedly in these places vaults, that they would actually the COMEX would end up defaulting, and all these metals would go through the roof, and Da Vinci and I would probably have a big party and be really happy. But the point is that we don't want to see the same thing here happen to Bitcoin, because that essentially dilutes the supply artificially and could suppress the price. And maybe that's what Wall Street wants to do. I don't know. But on one hand, I think this is a great thing, but what I've just discussed, I think, is one of the biggest pitfalls of this whole system. And maybe they have discussed it and I'm missing it. That could very well be possible. And if I have and you're aware of that, please let me know. I don't want to be giving any misleading information here. But it is interesting that this guy, Chris Klein, who wrote the article, is the COO of a Bitcoin IRA. And he is also one of the leading suppliers in providing gold and silver IRAs. So isn't that interesting?
That's interesting. Shane says supply is already diluted. We have centralized exchanges. So would you make an argument, Shane, that there are more than X amount of Bitcoins floating around trading out there in the world? Especially like with this Tether kind of thing and all that? Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's an interesting debate. And if anything, I might make the argument that, classic bull market, classic bear market, where's our hangover picture? I always love going back to our hangover, although people really don't like it when they see this picture. But what does the hangover year look like? How does it have to finish? How do bear markets have to play out? Like as a technician, we sit back and we go, okay, we can sort of see the future. But we never know the exact reason why. We never know the exact reason, what is the story du jour to cause this? I find it fascinating how sort of all of this plays out. Nobody could have written this any better than how it actually played out in reality. But the long and short of it here is we are going through the hangover year. This is the end of this hangover year. We should mark some sort of cyclical bottom first quarter of 2019. The question is, what does that look like? And, I might argue that this whole backed thing and, the FUD around Tether and all that kind of stuff is the reasons. But we all knew that, where's Joshua and his gap hunters, right? I mean, the irony of it all is that if you just follow the gap hunters, you sort of, and geez, we've done this enough on altcoins, just even the public, should be aware of this. But, the gap hunters knew that prices at some point needed to come back down here. What the exact reason for those down moves is always open for debate. But the long and short of it here is the technicians are vindicated once again. Okay, what do you got next here? Circle's dollar-tied stablecoin fully backed. Yeah, and these guys, I'm sure they are going to go out the butt with audits and stuff. Eh? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Goldman guys literally look at Bank to the Future and Simon Dixon and just say, we want that market, and we're going to do whatever we have to get that market.
Yeah, and that's what's always so fascinating about being the first to market, so to speak, in your own individual niche. And I think Tether was that first to market. They captured all of the market share. But what inevitably happens to these first to market places, they have an inability to sort of grow and respond to what the needs of their users really are. And I think in this specific case, Tether just failed to be what it was supposed to be. And there's a lot of manipulation, and we don't have to get into it. But the point being is that now you have these other stable coins that have now are going to use Tether as sort of a, call it a baseline for what is supposed to be a stable coin and what makes a stable coin good and how it provides value, and take all of those components, make them into something that's more relevant now and probably a little bit more, shall we call it, transparent and able to be proved from audit that they actually have these things in circulation and actually have funds in their bank. And that's exactly what happened here with Circle, is that they hired this company called Grant Thornton, and they test that Circle has $127 million held in custodial accounts as of October 31st, which exceeds their 408,000 tokens. So they have a little bit more in the bank than they actually have in stablecoin. So they're fully audited. But then the article continues and says that this isn't a full audit, but just a confirmation that this money and that these tokens exist. And frankly, it's probably
it'd be really interesting to Google that guy, Naim Ishak, and just get a little bit of history about him. It would be hilarious. I bet you we find out that he was part of the crappy bonds that Goldman Sachs was selling years ago. I wouldn't be surprised.
It looks like he used to be from Boxed. At least that's what this article is.
Right, but Goldman Sachs people like to keep people in house, right? So it'd just be interesting to see what his history is. Just on a side project, if somebody wants to have some fun, you might dig up some really interesting dirt there. All right, so we kind of went backwards today. I apologize, everybody, but we talked lots of crypto here this morning to begin with. I think we talked quite a bit of stock yesterday, so a bit of a balance. I'll mention there are some coins that are looking very interesting out there right now. Doge is trying to actually put in a double bottom. I don't know whether you can see my screen here. Joshua and I the other day were watching this W potentially coming in here, and I said if the W confirms, you notice that it Joby gapped right here. And I just simply said, look, if the W confirms, I'll go and throw in a bid down here at the gap here to add to the position. Interestingly enough, I mean, the internals, look at the internals. They just look absolutely beautiful on this thing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a rally here on good old Doji. What's really interesting about this is Alex's old rule of thumb. If Doge ever gets below 40 sats, buy it. This will be at 46, so a little bit above that 40 level. But I thought I actually had, I did a really funny little image, which I thought was kind of funny, but it might be gone. Yeah, here it is. So this is what we were seeing yesterday. I said, okay, give me the double bottom, and then I'll be a buyer right down in here. And there's Brian just sitting there waiting patiently. This thing might just leave me behind. It is very possible. But, interestingly enough, there are names out there that are actually trying to W that are in half-decent trade locations here. And, of course, that should put a smile on Shane's face. He loves Doge. So, caveat emptor, kind of like what the Binance people that Thomas said. I think that this is now officially a buyer's market. If you have gone slowly, I love Joshua. When he came in, he was saying he was putting like 0.001 BTC bids on these things. I might make the argument that if you went really, really slowly, like we all suggested at TRI, especially you new people, you should have just been paper trading for Graham wants you to do 100 paper trades just to get comfortable and used to this crazy world of trading. But I might make it, we have to understand the markets ebb and flow. And when things are looking the absolute worst, that's actually ironically enough when the opportunity is the highest. So ironically enough, I just thought I'd mention it before. I don't know whether we're going to leave crypto here now, but Joshua was and I were talking about this in the lounge the other night. And it looks like this trade is playing itself out now. And I suppose you could argue, Shane says, I don't know whether it's a Davo. It kind of looks like it, eh? Hey, Dav's here. Dav, would you call that a Davo? You probably want to throw on RSI, but cute little W in OBV and a W in Willie here. And, if we just do, you could see the cheeky little gap right up there. But if we just do really simple 50% rolls, probably even just a 38.2. What's that? 69. A nice test. Oh, look, there's a cheeky little gap right there. So I definitely think, if we go like 2 to 1s, and somebody said maybe El Tangonator as well, I think there's a trade here. It's just a question of what the hell is one? This is valued in Bitcoin. What's one Bitcoin going to be worth? Maybe what this means is that, Bitcoin's going to shit the bed. This thing will jump up to 60, 70 sats. But really all they want to do is they just want to keep Doge at the same level. I don't know. But the long and short of it here is there are setups firing in crypto. So, Albert, if you were going to be asking for a trade idea of the day, I think that's it right there. Right. And Albert, I do see you here in the daily briefs. He's sort of our marketing guru. He's going to be helping me try and script this a little bit firmer so that we have things like trade ideas of the day and stuff that we can send out to the public just as sort of like teasers. But I'll just dump that chart there in the lounge there for you. And I'll also put it in the marketing room. Okay, Albert? But Albert's kind of asked us to try and generate, an idea that we can at least take to the public on a fairly regular basis. So there you go, Albert. There's your trade of the day. Trade of the day. Trade of the day. Okay. I apologize if I went off on a tangent there. But I did want to mention that because Josh, it's so cool is, and I remember I've seen, like, we've been running this education program for about 3 or 4 years. Thomas, I could tell, like, literally within like the first week of trading that Thomas was going to be a monster. You just get the feel. Some people, like, I used to always say this, like when I learned tennis, to me, I'm like one of these grinder guys where I just got to keep working at it and keep practicing and keep practicing and keep grinding and keep trying, blah, 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 blah. And I get better slowly over time. And then you get like the little, sporto guy who just walks on the court, never played tennis before, but he's just a natural, and boom, instantly he's playing, and it drives you crazy. In trading, it's the same way. I remember at the prop firm, some guys would just come in and they just trade like the wind, and you could just see it in them. You knew that they were natural. So like literally within the first month, I think, of knowing Thomas, I knew he was going to be a monster. And I got to say, keep an eye on this Joshua. I know that this guy's going to be a monster down the road. So, as I had said just a moment ago, Joshua and I were sitting in the lounge the other night chatting about this, and sure enough, away she goes. So, holy tangent. I apologize. Brian, shut the hell up. Okay, do we want to talk a little stock? We got maybe about 10, 15 minutes left here.
Yeah, and thanks for the kind words. I'm no superstar by any means. Remember, I've been with you for 4 years and change. So, I mean, this is a product of a lot of hard work, and I've certainly taken my fair share of losses, and nothing teaches you a lesson quite like losing your ass every now and again. And it certainly humbles you as well. So it's a journey, right? There's no such thing as someone who just becomes great. You do have to work at it. As much as Brian likes to glorify me, I'm certainly not a superhero by any means, but I appreciate it.
I definitely say you put the time and effort in. You really worked hard. Don't get me wrong. But I also see the same thing out of Joshua, right? This guy has worked, and I love you to bits. This wasn't a prop up Thomas. This was let's give a shout out to Joshua, because this guy's gonna be a fucking monster. Love you too, though, and Andrew. I got a funny feeling you're the same damn thing. You and Rizza. Oh, God, you guys scare the hell out of me. Use your powers for good, right? I remember the same thing with Dav. Dav is a really interesting story. We don't necessarily need to get into it today, but one day he said, fuck it. I'm going to learn this. I'm going to work. I'm going to do this. And he did it. And I'm so proud of Dav, because he actually is very similar to me, in that, okay, we got to, we go on the tennis court and we're all like, yeah, we're the shit, right? But hey, no, we got to fucking work our asses off and fucking really buckle down. So Dav's like me, but there's just some people in this world that I hate you guys, that it just comes naturally. Anyway, total tangent. I apologize. Brian, shut up. Okay, Thomas, where do we want to take this conversation next?
Let's take a peekaboo at stock market. So there's this very strange graphic here, the buy, cry, and die pattern described by Jesse Stein. First time I've heard of it. Have you heard of this before, Brian?
I haven't heard it before, but it would make sense. Buy the dip. Oh, I'm underwater. Oh, I'm getting destroyed. Oh! Right, and that's the bottom. That wouldn't surprise me. Is that the gist of this article?
I guess I don't actually. I haven't clicked it. That's just the headline. I think that stock market's going to be. Ooh, sorry about that. I think Starbucks. Oh God, that actually reminds me. That is so weird. I don't know why I accidentally said that, but I was looking yesterday and I was like, I have to remind myself to show everyone this chart. And
Starbucks?
it's so random. I don't know how that slipped out of my mouth. I wasn't looking at anything that would have reminded me of that. All right, so Starbucks to me looked like a really good play. So we're just going to jump into this. A lot of these names have already paved their way down. And I think Starbucks has not done so yet. And this one looks like it's a fresh cup of Joe right now. You've got yourself. What's that?
I just gave you the rim shot.
Oh.
Question here ultimately is what the hell's going on with coffee prices? Yeah, continue your thought here. I mean, yeah, I can see the TRISOF already starting to set up here, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm hunting. I think I looked them up yesterday and they were a little too expensive on the put side, but today we have a little bit of an update. So maybe today will be my version of Black Friday going shopping here.
Well, I like a nice little push to new highs there, but MACD doesn't go to new highs, puts in the div, and then we start rocking and rolling.
Yeah, that would be nice here. So obviously this looks like an earnings report that came in better than expected. So they jumped here. So their estimate was 60 cents, but they were down 4 cents. But yeah, I don't really understand that. But
because I think pull up a chart of coffee, go KC1 exclamation mark on your chart, and you'll understand why this thing took off.
Coffee futures. Only the best coffee for Starbucks.
So 114. This guy should play. So do you see the rally in coffee prices?
Yeah.
So the question ultimately here is if this flags out and it's an AB equals CD bot kind of thing, then that's probably what sends Starbucks to new highs, creates the div and all that shit, right? I think this is, I've noticed over the years Starbucks follows coffee prices very closely. And then the question here is, why is this acting the way that it is? And I think what happened in Brazil was an extreme right-wing political candidate won their election. Obviously right-wing, he's going to be more sort of pro-business. The coffee industry obviously is huge for Brazil. This is a bit of a political football right now too. But I do like the idea. And actually, I like the fact that you looked at the TRISOF numbers and they didn't line up just yet. That to me says, okay, let's just be patient, wait for another little push to new highs, and then I think the trade starts setting itself up.
Yeah, so we'll keep this on the watch list as far as options pricing goes. But that one stood out to me. I
think the Starbucks sort of fad is winding down, eh? I don't know. Do you guys? And it'd be interesting just to get some feedback from. Do you guys buy? I haven't bought a coffee at Starbucks in forever.
I think taste buds are changing. Like taste generally changes, generations come through, and Starbucks is very much older generation. And I think that the predominating or the kind of idea of what Starbucks is, it's kind of waning a bit. Like when I was in college, people were obsessed with this shit. I mean, they come into class, everyone had one of these goddamn things, and
latte, grande, whatever.
Right, and they're very sugar laden drinks. They're just chock full of this crap. And I think that sugar is certainly on its way out now that we understand how bad it is. A lot of people are trying to cut it out of their diet, so some of their more signature drinks aren't as popular as they used to. But to get into the core of what they are, their coffee itself, I've heard from a lot of people, and I personally don't like it. I don't think the taste is on par with some of the little tiny hole-in-the-wall coffee shops that really make like artisanal coffee and such. But even in when I was in Vancouver, walking around there are some really great coffee shops. I don't know why you'd go into Starbucks and pay, whatever it is, they're $5 or $6 for a cup of coffee when you could get, this nitro roasted extravaganza from these little tiny coffee shops, and they're just that much better. But I don't know, right?
Actually, a lot of, Shane takes me around locally here in Vancouver to all the little craft breweries. And I suppose it's sort of the same sort of thing. Would you buy Budweiser, or would you be interested in buying these little craft breweries? So, and is Starbucks just like a corporate shill right now? I'm sure they're not going to get a lot of points for that. But nonetheless, price did perk up here quite nicely, and let's keep it on the radar screen because I agree with you. I think there is a trade there at some point.
Cool. Sorry to go too much into the fundamentals.
No, that's great stuff, man. And again, like what we do here is we're constantly throwing out ideas for our community. And really, if anything, we want to sort of, keep the pipeline kind of full of ideas. So I definitely like the idea of just keeping this guy on the radar screen. And as soon as the SOFs start coming in line, then Albert, we got another trade idea for you to go to the public with. So great stuff. Great stuff, dude. Keep on keeping on.
Cool. I think UPL was on the screener a bit ago, and I think just
a crazy one that this is a natural gas stock. I don't know whether it came up on the screener, but it might have. But this, and actually, one of the site members actually said, Brian, have you looked at the fundamentals on this thing? It's a bit suspect. I honestly think, kind of like Starbucks move, I think there was entirely just a move of the coffee, a proxy on the coffee move. I think this little stock, its play right now is purely on a play on natural gas. I don't mind taking a shot off of this because if you zoom out, this thing has come way off its highs. But if I had my choice in the natural gas industry, I absolutely love that TOU that we've been bantering about. UPL, the structure, it's iffy. Where the hell's that damn sheet? But I really do like this TOU. And the worst part about TOU is the stupid stock is going up now. I can't get a fill. So go figure. Are you thinking about taking a nibble on this UPL down here?
Yeah, I actually had some bids working from when it was first brought up, and I actually got filled down here on yesterday's price action. So I have to kind of evaluate. I mean, I like today's price action. This is actually a harami if we do close here.
Yeah, that'd be a sweet signal, eh?
Yeah.
I wonder how is that? And has anybody seen Graham? I'm a little concerned that I haven't seen him for a few days. I hope he's doing okay. But be interesting.
I saw him posting.
Okay, good. So you have seen him around the site?
Yeah.
I get so worried about my children, so. But I was going to say that he was very interested in these May $3 calls. They were 25 cents. It'd be interesting to see what they look like now. Yeah, and that's a good point too. Thank you for reminding me, Joshua. Americans, this is going to be kind of a screwy week for you guys. A lot of people are traveling. He's in Oregon, I think, so that makes a lot of sense too, Joshua. So thank you for that reminder. And a heads up for the level oneers, because of the Thanksgiving holiday, if Grim isn't available because he is traveling, we might just push this week back 1 week. So just be aware of that, okay, guys? All right, so natural gas, interestingly enough, somebody the other day was asking me, they were like, oh my God, everything on my screen is down. Ironically enough, I'm looking back in hindsight now, I'm actually feeling pretty proud of myself for taking profits at my AB equals CD levels. The NASDAQ itself gapped violently higher this morning, which I'm sure caught everybody by surprise. It almost looks like they're painting a little bit of an island down here. And keep in mind, there's this big old gap up top here. In fact, there's two gaps up here. So, and there's a gap up here, and there's a gap up here, and there's a gap here. Jesus, this whole damn chart, Swiss cheese. And I got the feeling like somebody was asking what the Fed's sort of plan here is. And I get the feeling that as soon as the Fed just sort of says, okay, we're going to cool it for a bit, I think the stock market could rally actually pretty hard here. So be careful on your shorts through here, people. Like we've gone through a really, really nice meltdown. As Thomas has on his screen, his Roku, I mean, this thing has fallen. That's basically a 50% drop in the stock, eh?
Yep.
So, a lot of the fluff is taken out of the market. It's gone. And if anything, now we should start thinking about positioning ourselves going forward. And actually, you just, if I'm not mistaken, I think you just had a crude oil chart on your chart there, right? On your screen. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there's just an insane bullish divergence there. Wow, look at that. A double D. That's a double D, man. I love double Ds. So actually, a nice little inside bar there today is probably actually going to give me a bit of a buy signal on crude. So don't be shocked to see energy prices rally a bit here. That's an island at 170 and above. All right. Yep. Okay. So as we've sort of talked about before, I think, being an aggressive seller down here in the stock market, I don't think that makes a heck of a lot of sense. Historically, ironically enough, usually U.S. Thanksgiving weekend actually is usually a relatively positive time for the market. So don't be shocked too if we have like a 2 or 3 day counter trend rally to take us out of the malaise here. One stock I wanted to show you, which I thought was so cool, and we teach this in our level 2 program, was Boeing. And Boeing, if I can find the chart here for you, Boeing had the most beautiful channel working. Does everybody see what happened yesterday morning on Boeing? Isn't that sick? Damn. Like, that's just incredible when I see stuff like that. So all I did was I just drew a trend line off of this peak and this peak, right? Just an M, how you're supposed to draw the trend lines. And then I just dragged the channel back against this low. And I think also maybe I did it against, this low here, right? So it just creates your channel. And look at that. I mean, like I had said yesterday, and this is sort of why I got super aggressive on getting out of those NASDAQ short proxies, was, they actually closed the market on Friday here, and they opened it down here the next day. If you ever see a market open with that kind of insane gap, that's not normal, to say the least. And it's so cool to watch how this thing has just hit that bottom channel and has just jackknifed back up, sort of. And the irony of it all is that I'm sure Thomas is looking at this going, well, I'll be more than happy to short the shit out of that thing on that clothesline low there, or maybe that one there. I don't know. So, you can actually see where the pros are probably going to step back up and hit this thing again. But my hunch here is that this short trade, that if you were playing this move, it actually finished yesterday morning. So, yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to add stock-wise? Somebody did, before you get to that, I apologize. I just want to mention this really quickly. Somebody on the site in the requests, and my web page is kind of screwy, so I wasn't able to see the request page. I still don't know whether I have it here or not. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing wrong here. Stuart's going to have to give me some lessons. But if I go on the Rocket chat under the support, I think the show request room, somebody asked me to look at bonds. It was Johnny Tastic. So I think we've scheduled, John, if you're going to be watching this video, we scheduled tomorrow. I'll spend a good maybe 15, 20 minutes and just go step by step by step and break down the bond chart. So that's you, John Brooks? Okay, cool. So I haven't forgotten about you. I apologize. But I did see that request, and so that's what we'll do tomorrow. Okay, anything else in the stock market you'd like to talk about? Actually, interesting that you have the US dollar on there. I'm actually a bit surprised that as gold is as strong as it is here. What are you seeing out of the gold pits? I know I did it again. I'm sorry. Okay. What do you see here, sir? Brian.
Let me tackle the dollar first. And this has me a little concerned because I think that institutionally speaking, a lot of people are dollar bulls, and the expectation here is that the dollar is going to continue its bull run. And, even I was thinking that this thing's going to keep shooting higher. Now, I think there's some trepidation hitting the market right now, mainly because of the, shall we call it, instability as far as the decisiveness of the Fed to raise. I know that they've kind of come out and said, we're going to raise in December, we're going to raise in December. And then you got the vice chairman who's like, maybe we're not going to raise in December. But we've talked about how that's a political installation on purpose. So I think that right now the dollar is not really so exciting and lustrous as it was when the Fed was like, yeah, we're hiking. We're going to keep hiking, and we're not going to stop hiking until we fuck everything. But that's not what they said. So I think this is why the dollar is a little bit confused here. And I'm almost looking at this like a head and shoulders. It almost looks like this is the left shoulder here. Here's the head, and maybe we're in the middle of forming the right shoulder. And if that's true, I think that that means the Fed isn't going to hike. And I think that money, or at least the capital that was flowing into the US dollar, won't be there as it once has been flowing into this market back in the beginning of November. Now, as far as how that relates to gold, we all know that the inverse relationship between the dollar and gold is still very much on the table. And I think you're right, Brian. The relative strength of gold in the face of how high the dollar has gone. I mean, look, if you go back to October 9th and you look at the gold price is about 1182, and then you bring up the dollar price on October 9th, the dollar was all the way back down here at about 95 and change, maybe 90, yeah, it was on its way down. So while the dollar has gone up, gold really didn't lose its level. So gold is sort of basing here, and that's what I'm looking at. And I think there's a lot of confusion, at least in my sector. People are like, this is new behavior. Gold is no longer marching its way down. We are getting into the time of year where gold should start to decline. I think that if we go into the end of the year and, maybe even the second to last week of December and gold hasn't gone down, I think that, well, I personally will be accumulating more gold, and I will be putting on long positions on gold because I believe that there's a lot of algorithms waiting for gold to breach above 1245, which will push it into the 1290 area, according to how those algorithms are programmed. So I think we have to keep a close watch on that. But I mean, the relative strength of gold versus the US dollar has certainly caught a lot of people off guard, myself included.
How does this scenario sound, though? I agree with you. I like the idea. Like, this was last November. Market was uppy. Keep in mind, the Fed said that they're going to raise in December. They're still on course to do that. So I wonder if there's just one more fuck you through that December Fed raise, and then we mark the bottom in the gold market. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking right now, but I don't know. These gold stocks have got me perplexed right now a bit.
Yeah. I think that's a great scenario because right now it's just way too clean. And I think if anyone is positioning themselves, they're jumping ahead of the game. So does it make sense that gold will give us the FU on the way down, or even both sides? This could be an OK coin situation where you get, some crazy move down to 1175 or even breach these lows here and then go back up and, reach for that liquidity that exists down here to go all the way up. That's certainly possible, but I think it's going to take some sort of event to push this price higher. And I think that event is potentially could be the Fed rate hike decision, but something else could hit the news, some kind of global catastrophe. God forbid anything like that were to happen, but that would certainly send gold soaring, or war, of course, does.
Hey, like, if I was looking at this and I see my div and I see Willie Stupid and stuff, this is off that swing sort of model. I'm thinking short here. But the only thing that's got me perplexed right now is if we look at the biggest gold stock around, American Barrick just went and put in a goddamn bullish bot setup, and it's breaking out violently here today. So I'm a little perplexed by this. And interestingly enough, this is the only gold stock that's really doing that. Most of these other ones, they are catching bids, but they don't have this clean breakout that Barrick's got. But fascinating. And I suppose we have to give a kudos to that Twitter guy, because he said he was feeling bullish of gold, and it's turned back up here. So, oh well.
Where was he buying? 1202 or something? So does that mean
I think he said that if gold pulls back here, I'm so gonna load up on it. So it never did pull back, but it is interesting that he was bullish.
Did he have a profit objective, or just kind of load in the boat?
I think he's just sort of talking on his butt, typical sort of talk.
I do that after I eat a lot of beans too.
Okay.
I always have these horrible tidbits. It's like you should definitely play after stuff like that.
For whatever it's worth, I like some of these on the outs junior gold stocks through end of the year. The VCIM names. Some of the ones I'm trying to get into, they just won't bring the price down. Others try to get into. I did get filled a little bit on this one. Keeping an eye on this Warrior, but nothing really too exciting. And then the new Carlin. I think these are classic sort of VCIM end of the year. The old shareholders are just destroyed. So I'll be keeping an eye out for W's on these things to get super excited coming out of the end of the year. Great time if you're interested in investing in penny stocks, that VCIM model. This is the time of year to be doing it. And I've got a whole bunch on the screen I'm just going to be watching here through. This one's really interesting. I don't know whether you want to invest in Quebec, but I've talked a little bit about this one recently. The CEOs stepped in, options to directors up top here. And you can see if the gold market does have any kind of, bump up into its very normal seasonal period, this thing's got a long way to go. But anyway, so it was just interesting to hear your sort of what you're thinking about gold and what's your buddy silver looking like these days? Is silver a leading indicator or a lagging indicator these days?
Yeah, I haven't really got my finger on the pulse of this thing. I think silver's just as lost as gold, and the two of them are running around confused as hell at this point. And silver is like the even more confused younger brother here. I don't think that this market has a direction. I mean, look at it. You've got new lows here, you've got new highs here, and it's just blah. There's no trade. It's all over the place for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Well, we've given these people a whole bunch of ideas to chew on. Everything from Bitcoin and Ethereum cautious comments, Doge as your potential little altcoin buy here for the traders, some options ideas, stock ideas. So I think we've given the people a lot to chew on here today. So thank you very much, Thomas. Great job as always.
Thank you.
Should we wind this up, or was there any other ideas that you wanted to throw at these good people, or shall we call it a day?
Well, we did the U.S., so we got to move to Europe. Then we have to do Asia and Australia, right? So
okay. All right. So this is a marathon session today, everybody. Very comfortable. Actually, I have a class I have to teach here in 45 minutes, so I can't do that. Sorry, not today.
That would be one hell of an episode, huh?
Well, and that's the irony of it all. If we actually started, let's say we started first thing in the morning on Saturday, and we actually wanted to go through the entire market and review everything, we'd probably be a good 6-8 hours.
And we'd probably be able to do it too.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, James, I used to run when I was a commodities broker. I used to run this weekly commodity trend service update for my old subscribers, my clients, I beg your pardon. And James actually got working away on this. So, I mean, literally this could easily just review what the trends are and if any new trends have come in and technical targets. That could easily be a 2-hour conversation unto itself. We just haven't ever gotten to the point of that, being able to have that conversation yet at TRA, but one day we will. Anyway. Okay, so why don't we leave it at that for today? Thank you very much, Mr. Bear, for good quality material for our community. Always top-notch work. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for driving the bus and keeping us on track the way that you do. Absolutely a fantastic team we've got here. I am privileged to be able to hang out and listen to you guys and your excellent market commentary. a lot of real professionals here that that I am more than happy to stand side by side in the pits with. And you know, we just keep bringing it every single day of the week for you. So thank you very much, everybody. Are you done, Mr. Bear?
Yep, all done from me.
All right. Thank you, sir. Have yourself an awesome rest of your day.
And
Alex, what do you think? Oh, I'm sorry, Thomas, did you want to say something?
And happy Thanksgiving to all the Americans.
Happy Thanksgiving, gobble, gobble, all that. Drive safely. I know there's going to be a lot of people on the roads this weekend in the States. So, you know, take it easy. Have a good break. Alex, you get some sleep this weekend. Get over your little coldy cold. But last thing I'll ask, well, actually today, what day is today? Today's Wednesday. So we still got a couple more daily briefs here, but I do understand if the Americans are going to play it on the down low for the next few days here. So, all right, Mr. Mayor, what do you think? Shall we call it a day?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. And the only thing left that the loudmouth Beamish guy has to say here today is a big bye for now.
Gobble, 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 gobble.